So glad that you all could be here on this Saturday afternoon on November 13th, 2021. We are going to go ahead and call this meeting to order of our general membership meeting for the Amarillo Branch NAACP today at 1:05 p.m. Um, Third Vice President Gunny, would you please lead us in an invocation?
Yes, I will. Please bow your head. Dear Heavenly Father, once again, thank you for bringing us all together here today. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for these individuals that are gathered here today and those that wish to be here but had other plans and is probably dealing with freedom fighting like these individuals that are gathered here today. Dear Heavenly Father, I ask that you just lay your hands on this country, bring us away from all this division that is going on right now, and make us all understand that we are only one thing. We are all humans, and that we are all childs of God. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for bringing Mr. Joe Mar Wilson here today to speak to us, so we can hear his wisdom and people can make an intelligent choice about him. Dear Heavenly Father, I give you this prayer in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Third Vice President. We appreciate
Anytime.
it. All right. As far as old business goes, our branch attended the 84th Texas State Conference, the NAACP convention. It was a well-attended event, albeit virtual. Hopefully that will be the last time in the immediate future having to do a virtual convention. However, that was a very amazing opportunity for us all to experience. There were certainly a lot of details that we learned. Our executive committee received updates on those matters on Thursday evening, and we will produce information regarding anything from our state conference in NAACP as the weeks and months progress. Our branch drafted and disseminated an open letter endorsing the North Heights rezoning initiative. Many of you saw that, and I just thank all the contributors to that thought process and all the collaborative efforts made with regards to North Heights rezoning. We are going to move into new business. We can certainly have some open floor remarks, probably more expeditiously than we anticipated. But using this time with a recorded session, I think it's going to be great for Ms. Linda Lydia to have the opportunity to speak on a matter close to her heart. If you're unfamiliar with who she is, currently she is a Region 6 National Board Member candidate for the NAACP, but she has served in myriad capacities within the NAACP as well as other organizations. She's a former Texas State Secretary, a former NAACP National Youth Work Adult Representative, Youth Advisor for the Dallas Juanita Craft Youth Council, a former chair of the Dallas NAACP Health Committee. She was also an NAACP Youth Advisor of the Year. Her awards, experience, and honors are very comprehensive. I think we have a great privilege this afternoon to be able to hear from Linda Lydia, again, a candidate for Region 6 in the NAACP National Board. Mrs. Lydia, you certainly have the floor.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, President Miller. And I'm, again, very delighted to be in the mix of the Amarillo NAACP. I have a long history in working with the Amarillo NAACP, going all the way back to Alfonso Vaughn, who is now, I think, one of your county commissioners. Is that correct? Can you hear me?
Commissioner Vaughn, yes.
Okay, he's still a commissioner?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. And of course, Alfonso, of course, I know his wife, Linda, and also with Mr. Ford Anthony. So I have a long history working with the Amarillo branch, and I've witnessed some of the incredible work that you guys have done. But enough said, I am running for the Region 6 National Board seat. I want to help restore transparency, some respect, fairness, inclusiveness, more communications to all, not just a select few, but hope I can reach out to each and every person, and you can join me in this mission of expanding our reach within the National Board so we can become more responsible to the tenets of the Constitution to provide status updates on memberships for oversight and accountability. A number of the branches have been complaining about not getting their proceeds back for memberships that they've been sending in. There are a number of issues that we could do on the board level to perhaps make things a little smoother for those of us who are out here in the trenches doing the work of civil rights across the state and the nation. But I am asking for your vote, and I'm so pleased that I timed this perfectly, that I was able to get into your membership meeting today. It is definitely a joy to be here. I am going to be representative, not just of Texas, and I want to make sure I say this. I will also be representing Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. That is the region that we will be handling, and I plan to be responsible for all of those states within our region. Mr. Miller, are you ready for me to be quiet? Because I could keep going. I could go on and on and on, but I know you've got some really distinguished guests. I saw Attorney Wilson, and he obviously has a great following, and the other people on this call. But I just want to leave you with Micah 6:8, which they invoked during or read during the service, recent services of Secretary of State Colin Powell, who's one of my heroes. And it's Micah 6:8, and I want to assure you that I will, if elected, I will act justly, and I love mercy, and I will walk in the will of God. So please consider me for your next national board member. I have served in every capacity within NAACP except for the national board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lydia. Thank you for your continued service. You definitely have a wealth of knowledge, and you've experienced the work in the trenches, which we're all involved in, but you know it from the local level all the way up to national level. So we appreciate you taking the time out for us this afternoon. We certainly value your wisdom, and I just look forward to having that robust discussion and learning from you and from the other candidate, who's our current Texas State Secretary, Erica Kane. I think you both have a lot to offer, and it's going to be up to, of course, the voting constituents in each of these respective branches. But you certainly have given us a great deal of thought today. So thank you so much, Mrs. Lydia, for joining us. All right, it appears now we have our other special guest who's able to join us. We are so very privileged to welcome the Honorable Judge Walt Weaver of Potter County Court at Law #1. My understanding is he is delighted to speak on behalf of the Veterans Treatment Court, but certainly has autonomy of discussion here. So without further ado, Judge Walt Weaver, we welcome you and pray that all is well with you.
Mr. Miller, for starters, I apologize for being late. It was tentatively put on my calendar, and I didn't have a Zoom invite. And if it weren't for Jomar contacting me, I would have missed it completely. So thank you, Jomar, Mr. Wilson, rather. And thank you, Mr. Miller, and everybody else. Tentatively, it just said you wanted to hear about the vet program. I never got any follow-up. So what's going on? What do you want to hear about?
Well, and we apologize for that. I will take that responsibility as president, and assure you we will ensure that next time you will get that more than tentatively scheduled on your calendar. We definitely want to hear just, we know Veterans Day was this past Thursday, so we thought this would be a perfect time to talk about this wonderful resource as far as a specialty court to support our veterans. But if you had anything else that you wanted to share regarding Potter County Court at Law #1 that you believe we should be aware of, those thoughts would generally be appreciated as well.
Okay, well, fantastic, Mr. Miller. As I said, my name is Walt Weaver. I was elected judge about 3 years ago. I've been in Amarillo since 1992, working variously for the Court of Appeals as a briefing attorney. I started with Danny Hill as a felony prosecutor, went to Rebecca King, ended up on my own, worked for Jeff Blackburn for a while, and then I left him and I was on my own, and then finishing up partnering with Paul Herman running a private practice law firm. Along those many years, it became apparent and pretty frustrating that the most expensive way to not solve a problem is just to convict somebody, send them to prison, and then they get out and the problem's not solved. Nothing's been addressed. And at least in my personal experience, well over 80% or more of most felonies are drug, alcohol, or mental health related. Every time you read in the paper something, credit card abuse, a state jail felony, possession controlled substance, burglary of a building, these people are committing crimes to raise cash to buy drugs. So just because you went to jail for a burglary of a building or some other offense or assault, domestic violence, a lot of times it's one of those tripartite issues of drugs, mental health issues, substance abuse. So yeah, I'm sure you'll have heard of Judge Board's drug court. By any chance, is that a possibility? This means yes, this means no. On
Yes.
Zoom, I've learned
Uh-huh.
that's helpful. We don't have to talk, but I can still see body movement. But the principle of the drug court is taking someone out of the train of just, bag them and tag them, grab them, just and lock them up. It's, you find someone that's been charged with an offense, and then not only do you get probation, you pull them out of the probation stream and you meet one-on-one with the judge and a team of individuals, counselors, social workers, mental health people who individually craft a treatment plan. And the success rate is phenomenal in drug court. On that heels is the veterans court. Veterans, for some reason, respond well among other veterans. I mean, and when you have veterans, you have a very unique cross cut of society. You'll have rich and poor, black and white, different religions, but they have that one unifying connection, which is their common experience in the military. And as such, they hold each other more accountable. And when someone's, the purpose of Veterans Court is that they report once a week and they talk to the judge. I'm like, well, tell me how your treatment plan's going. And they may talk about going to, counseling or post-traumatic stress. And I'll go, how did your last drug test go? And I'm like, well, I was clean. And of course, we all cheer. Or they go, well, I was dirty, but I was at a function. And literally the whole room's just, no, that's a lie. And I call them out, I hold them accountable immediately. So you have a one-on-one contact with an individual, and it can be rough. There's quite an investment. I'll be the first to tell you that when I was in private practice, like Joe Mar was here when I got here, I think. You kind of get into the rhythm of solving individual problems. And once you've worked out the criminal aspect, is it legal? Can I get a deal they want, probation, pen time, whatever? You're done. You never see the follow through. But now I'm there every day. And I got to tell you, Monday morning, sometimes I'm holding my breath. Is this vet going to make it through the weekend? I mean, I've tasked them with a job of being clean or doing something uncomfortable, just leaving their house to go for a walk. So the veterans program is partnered with the VA, and we have something that the drug court doesn't do. The VA has, part and parcel of this success is immediate accountability. When I tell a vet to go get a drug test, you go right there. You leave court, go to the VA at no cost to the taxpayer, because we've already paid for it as a taxpayer, and they go get a drug test. And if they don't, unfortunately, sometimes there's a gradient of punishment, whether it be to write a report or come back and talk to the vets, or ultimately, maybe incarceration. On the vet side, as opposed to the drug court side, we try not to use incarceration as a means of either punishment or motivation. We escalate up how much we're involved in their lives, but we also consider them the big sprints, for drug treatment. We send it to women's only group who have had traumatic events that have occurred in the military. We have a lot more resources that mental health doesn't have, that drug courts don't have. So we just started it. We jumped through the hoops. We've been through all the training. We've written our manuals. We finally got approved by the Office of Court Administration. So we are now an officially recognized Veterans Court program. So what else do you want to know about the Veterans Court?
Well, you know, I just want to remark on how it sounds more rehabilitative as opposed to punitive. And it sounds like it allows for the proper amount of accountability, but through partnership, through that collaborative effort with the VA, as you mentioned. And it's just so impressive to know that our community has gotten behind this idea and has an understanding, at least with regard to veterans, the mental health component is strong and it can no longer be taboo. Proud to see that, you know, the legislative achievements of, you know, one of our local state representatives for Price with regard to mental health. And I think that helps. What types of pieces of legislation do you propose continue to be brought forth from either the state or the national levels to help support the Veterans Court cause that you are leading?
Well, I volunteered either to do a mental health court or the Veterans Court. And to be more realistic, the mental health court should take priority because of the problem, but it takes local monies and or national monies. So by being successful with the Veterans Court, hopefully we can coattail into the mental health court to be more inclusive, to get more people in. As far as legislation, the biggest problem, the name of my court is the Panhandle Regional Veterans Treatment Court. We stayed away from the word Amarillo. We stayed away from the word Potter County. What we're trying to do is legislative. You asked about what's got to change. I only am a misdemeanor judge. So I have jurisdiction, the authority to act on those misdemeanor matters. But once I became a specialty court, then I can have district courts assign a person to me. Now, before, if they failed my supervision, I just would have to send a letter back to the judge and go, hey, he's not playing with us, or she's not, and he's your problem. But I changed my legislative responsibility such that I now, once the district court gives me permission to handle it, I can then, you know, order their treatment. If they don't complete successfully, then I can modify their probation. And if that doesn't work, ultimately I can send them to the pen or substance abuse felony punishment facility. It removes one of the bureaucratic hurdles for me to get instantaneous coordination with the justice involved vet. So we've changed that one part. Is that whoever becomes, if it's not just me, if, like, for instance, if I lose my election, I have to file to be on the ballot. So if I lose, whoever picks up the reins, we've created a thing that'll stand alone. It's not connected to me, so that they have authority to handle the justice of all vets and misdemeanors, felonies. And once we get it all done, kind of like this Zoom window here where we touch, you know, you're to my right. Well, that's Carson County. What we want to do is execute memorandums of understanding with that district court and that county judge. So when they have a vet, they can send it over to me because they're coming to the VA for treatment anyway in Amarillo. And likewise, up to the north, Moore County, Dumas, Oldham County. What we're trying to do is become a regional hub for taking care of the vets. When they come down to Amarillo, they can see me on Monday. They can do their social work, their counseling, their PTSD, because we have a unique ability to immediately handle all the problems that these smaller communities cannot do. So does that answer your question?
Yes, sir, it does. And I have one other if I may. So qualitatively, it sounds like there's an abundance of success, but quantitatively speaking, do you have any data regarding the level of recidivism or just the overall success rate of the Veterans Report?
You can go to, I forget what the national website is, the Justice Involved Vets Specialty Courts. Locally, to answer your question, Mr. Miller, I do not. Anecdotally, I do, but hard numbers, you can go to the specialty courts for vets who we were trained by the national office. They can show the recidivism rate is much, much lower. I mean, phenomenal, exponentially lower. Because you're getting one-on-one treatment. You're not saying
Right.
someone who's a meth addict, maybe they get picked up for burglary of a building. It's not obviously apparent that they have a drug problem. We may know it. They may be told to go get drug treatment, and once a month, they go up there and they get a drug test, and then at their 30 days later, you were dirty, can't do that. Test them again, they're dirty. You 90 days, maybe it's 6 months before the probation finally revokes them. Well, that's not working on that person's problem. Mine's accountability every week.
Yes.
And that's what you need. I mean, no one chooses to be an addict. I mean, they never start off with, I'm going to be a meth addict. That's my goal. It's like anything else in life. You did it. And for whatever reason, that made you feel good, answered whatever problem you were running from or walking towards. And then it just eats you alive. And as I began this with, most expensive way to not solve a problem is what we got now.
Mhm.
And it's just ridiculous. It's just, forget about it. We solved the problem. They're in prison. It makes me crazy. Now, that's not popular. You know, people just want to punish without rehabilitating. But that's, you know, in my personal opinion, an inappropriate approach.
No, those are strong words. Certainly
Well,
that sentiment is shared across the racial and political divide among members here.
we're all tired of it. I mean, it's just dumb. We imprison more people than anywhere else in the world. Does that mean Americans are that much more worse than everyone? No. It's just easy to bag them and tag them. But that doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't. Another thing you asked me, I wanted to talk about other issues. When I took the bench, we had the Sixth Amendment Center come in and do a review of our representation. Now you have to remember, I was like Jomar. I was the defense attorney. I don't think, Jomar, were you ever a prosecutor?
No, I was not.
So you don't have a checkered past. So you've always been here.
I started out in civil law. No.
Did we lose Judge Weaver? I hope not.
Yeah, he's froze.
I want to keep that picture of him though.
Yeah. All right. Everybody take a picture of that one. Hopefully we get Judge Weaver here soon. Third Vice President Gunny, not to put you on the spotlight, but I know as a veteran, you're hearing these things, and as someone who works closely with veterans, have any remarks based on what Judge Weaver was sharing with us?
Well, I actually wanted to comment on that. I am a peer support specialist, not for the VA. I got my training outside the VA, and I do work with veterans. And that is so true. They do respond better to veterans. Like myself, I was a senior enlisted. A lot of these individuals, Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, a lot of them are junior to me in rank. And I just take the approach, I talk to them just like I would if we was still on active duty. And a lot of these individuals, they respond to that. They don't want to disappoint you. When I tell a young man, I'll give a story right quick. A young man who was, he liked to act up at the VA. And then he would go out and get drunk. And one day he called me and I said, listen here, Marine. Were you a meat eater or a vegetarian when you was in the Marine Corps? Meaning that he was a hard charger or he was meat. He said, I was a meat eater, Gunny. I said, what happened? I want you to go home, look in the mirror, and I want you to find Sergeant, and I won't say his name. Yeah, I want you to find that same sergeant. And the Marine did. And he came back the next day and he said, thank you.
Wow.
Because sometimes you have to take a step back. People always say you can't go back. Yes, sometimes you have to take a step back. and you have to look at this thing. So I'm definitely happy that Potter County is looking at this, because it hurts my heart to see some of these veterans. Like you said, some of them, they come out, they don't know how to adjust, and let's just face it, it's easier to pick up a crack pipe or smoke marijuana or something, and they make a wrong turn. And then next thing you know, they're a felon. Next thing you know, they're in prison. But yet, 3 times a year, we make a big deal about the veterans, what all we do for them, but we never bring up the ones that we just throw in jail just because they made a mistake. And some of these Marines are highly decorated. Some of the things that they did during wartime, the average citizen would not even think about doing. So I'm all for this. I know I gave a long answer, a long speech there, but this is very, very something I'm adamant about. We need to help our fellow veterans. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some out there, they deserve what they get. And some of them don't. And one thing I do know about this program, it's not a program where we just put them on our shoulder and we stroke them and tell them everything all right. They are held accountable. And that's one thing I love about this program. I'm done.
No, Gunny, you have the right to speak on this or any issue because you deal with this personally. And we, again, appreciate you and thank you for your service to our nation.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know if we're going to get Judge Weaver again, but we certainly appreciate his time with us, despite some of those technical difficulties. And this is obviously being recorded, so folks will have the opportunity to pick that up at their leisure. And we hope to have Judge Weaver back as a guest as often and as frequently as he would like to join us. I want to now take a moment to just open up the floor for general discussion. We obviously have, upcoming primaries, and there happens to be a candidate on the call, and I don't know if he's prepared any remarks, but he's certainly here as a guest, and we would like to open up the floor to Mr. Jomar Wilson, who is a local attorney who also happens to be running for the 47th, district judge. He is going to be running in the Republican primary. So I will say the Amarillo Branch NAACP is a nonpartisan, nonprofit, all-inclusive organization. The views or opinions expressed by any one candidate do not necessarily reflect the views of the Amarillo Branch NAACP. However, with that said, Mr. Jomar Wilson, if you want to take a few moments just to introduce yourself and perhaps have the opportunity later in a formal public setting, we want to extend that invitation to you now, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Miller. The first thing I'd like to do is just briefly state that Thursday, I spent a couple hours over at the Veterans Resource Center, and in talking with Verlene Dixon and Randy Wellman over there, they're really excited about the formalization of the Veterans Court and believe that it's going to be a very important component of helping these veterans and with problems that they have and when they get into the legal system, and that will be a great supplement to the Veterans Resource Center. And I also got to witness a amazing spectacle of the celebration of the birthday of the Marine Corps, in which they cut and served a cake using a saber. So that was a little different. We really enjoyed it though, and enjoyed visiting with Verlene and Randy and the others there. Just briefly, not to hold y'all up, my name is Jomar Wilson. I'm a lawyer here in Amarillo. Those of you that were on the call before we formally started heard me and Gunny talking. We both spent some time in Dalhart, Texas. That's back there, and please don't hold that against either one of us. I graduated undergraduate at West Texas A&M, West Texas State. They call it A&M right now, and Texas Tech Law School. I've practiced all of my law practice has been in Amarillo since 1988, 33 years. In that time, almost all of it I've practiced as a solo with a general practice, but mainly in criminal and family law, and associated what I would call a family practice, which is, small probate, small business things of that nature. I am running for the 47th District Court. To those of you not familiar, that encompasses Potter, Randall, and Armstrong counties. So that's Amarillo, Canyon, and Claude. The jurisdiction of that court allows it to hear a wide range of cases, but in all reality, as with all of our district courts, almost all of its time is spent hearing family law and criminal felony cases. That's basically all that the courts do anymore, certainly on a district court level. I've spent 30 years representing people like people on this call, people like your members, standing beside them whenever their family's falling apart, standing beside them whenever they're making a new family, when they or their loved ones have fallen from society's expectations, when they're trying to protect their property or their businesses, or trying to grow their property or their business. And I want to continue that on serving as judge of the 47th District Court, because I believe that viewpoint, that experience that I've had makes me, at least among the candidates in this race, uniquely qualified to do the best job. I'm also one of only 14 lawyers in the state that is board certified in both family and criminal law, which is a recognition that the state gives of a higher amount of expertise in those particular areas. I believe I bring more qualifications to the job than anyone else, and I'm excited. I think Judge Weaver will sympathize with me. I'm not very excited about campaigning right now, but I'm excited about the possibility of having the opportunity to serve, because there's a lot of things you can do as a lawyer, but you can only do so much. And one of the things you can do as a judge is you can take all the times that you complain, all the times that you thought they got it wrong, and you can throw that around in your head and say, okay, I think I can do better, or I think I can find a better solution. And I know that won't always be the case, but I'm very excited about hopefully being able to do that. And I want people. I know that I'm the judge. I'll be seeing people like my clients, like everybody the 6,500 clients I've represented in 33 years. And I think they deserve to have somebody that understands them, and not somebody, that pretty much dealt with an insurance company or a corporation all their legal career. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today, or any other opportunity you can give me. Be glad to answer any questions, or glad to come to any other venue and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
I have.
Yes, I will definitely entertain questions from our third vice president, Mr. Penny Brown.
Who are your opponents?
I know for sure that a lady named Dee Johnson is running for sure. There's another gentleman that is indicated, and I don't know if he's filed officially yet. His name is Alex Yarborough, but Dee Johnson, I know for sure is running. She works at a small firm that she's a named partner and does insurance defense work for State Farm. Mr. Yarborough works for Riney and Mayfield, representing corporations and government entities.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Kay Peachin. I'm the NAACP Housing Committee Chair, but I'm also the managing attorney at Legal Aid. Judge Weaver, Mr. Miller took responsibility for the snafu today. That is my fault. So I will, next time we have you on, Judge, I will make sure that you are connected and you know what we are wanting to hear about. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for telling us about the Veterans Courts. That's exactly what we wanted to hear. And that's what we needed to hear. Your cat is joining us now. And
George is famous on Zoom for being here when I do all my in custody pleas at the jail.
Cute kitty.
But I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. I need what's called a court coordinator and a paralegal. She texts me every morning when I wake up, good morning, here's your life. And I respond, thank you. And if she doesn't say thank you, she has to step it up to a phone call. And if that doesn't work, she has to drive to my house until I say thank you, because I've been known to forget things and I plan around my own failures. So I don't, this could easily be on me. So I'm not offended. And I would have dressed up. I remember I was painting across the street. I got paint all over me. So I was, again, thank you, Jomar, for helping me, because I think this is important.
No problem.
Yeah, I don't know if this meeting's over, but I said something about the Sixth Amendment Center before the lights went out. And do you want to hear about that?
I believe we do, because it kind of ties in close association with, a prospective member who may have something to do with that in the near future, should he be elected, and Mr. Wilson. So and I would love for you to have the opportunity.
All
to
right.
speak. Do anyone have any more questions for Mr. Wilson, Mark?
Oh,
Yes. Can you hear me, Patrick? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Ms. Lydia.
Okay. Judge Weaver, thank you so much for the presentation about your court that you have there in Amarillo. We have a real issue in Dallas with homelessness among our veterans. How are you addressing that issue in Amarillo? Where you're,
homelessness?
yeah, among your veteran population.
That's what's really unique about it. Now, to touch base with me, it's called a justice-involved vet, which is another way to say a vet's been accused of a crime. Now, what happens is, once, unfortunately, for me to, not that I don't care, but for me to be able to do things, once they are justice involved and I pull them out of that assembly line of conviction, then we hook them up to the VA. Then we start getting HUD vouchers, VA vouchers. We can actually work on their homelessness. But, we got to get them stable. We got to get the defense attorney. I mean, they're overworked. I got to get the defense attorney to get the defendant to get an application in to the DA's office to kick it to me. That's the hard part. But they may still be homeless, or they may not care that they're homeless, because they're so consumed with their drug addiction or their mental health issues. But once we do get them, we work on the whole person, stabilizing their life for a routine, the home, the food. What can we do to get them fed? What can we do to get routine back in life for the mental health, the drug treatment, PTSD, whatever's affecting their lives? So, sadly to say, Miss Lydia, to answer your question, what am I doing for homelessness? Nothing. But once they get to my court, then I can start working on it. Does that answer your question?
It's really sad when you're penalizing someone.
Yes.
For circumstances that they obviously lost control.
Well, a lot of times the justice involved vet will end up in the criminal system on a criminal trespass. And so they're just there because of their mental health, either trying to stay warm, or they won't leave a 7-Eleven or a Toot and Totem, what we have in Amarillo. But then the punishments start increasing. You go misdemeanor, then a bigger one, and then it becomes problematic. So we have a wonderful person by the name of Dorothy Karskadon, who was shot. She's one of the officers shot by the psychiatrist down there in the military base.
Yes.
She has her own Wikipedia webpage. She's constantly mining the jail rosters, both Randall and Potter County, going through, trying to find vets every day. And once we do it, bam, she's trying to get information to them to get them to us. So it's kind of at the tail end, Miss Lydia, but we're doing something.
That's good to hear. And I'm glad someone told me that was a cat, because I didn't know what was going behind it. I was really frightened.
I had a hard time hearing that. I need a translator.
Oh, I said that I'm glad someone pointed out that was your cat, because I was concerned about what was crawling behind your head.
I understand.
Thank you again.
You're very welcome, Miss Lydia.
Well, And Mr. Wilson, we'd be certainly glad and open to you have any opportunity to speak with us again. Our Political Action Committee Chairman, Mr. David Martinez, he is definitely one to reach out to. And, if you get the opportunity, I suggest you reach out to him. But know that someone from your camp has contacted me, and I will put them in contact with Mr. Martinez.
If y'all have a forum, if you have a forum of candidates, the question you need to ask them is, what is the work of this court? Because if they come up there with their past experience saying, I represent corporations, I represent insurance defense, that's not the work. The yeoman's share of work is family law and criminal law. And if you show up in a district court where every trial is sexual assault of a child, indecency with a child, convictions where you're double enhanced, minimum sentence 25 years to life, where bias plays in. If this is your first time to see it, it's too late to learn. It doesn't matter how good of a lawyer you are. And I think I can't advocate for any client or any candidate because it's one of the ethics that we take as a judge. But I would certainly want to know, a good question posed to me was, Mr. Weaver, what does your court do? And how do you address that with your experience? And I said, I'm board certified in criminal law. I'm board certified in criminal appellate law. There's very few of those out there, and certainly none that are board certified criminal and family law. Ottawa County Court Law #1 does all misdemeanors, all family law. I have exclusive juvenile jurisdiction for kids, which includes felonies. I had a murder in my court last week. I had someone accused of manslaughter, a kid whose parents were both drunk, and the mama said, please come home because dad's beating me up. He comes home because he saw it was a problem he couldn't solve, and they are charged with manslaughter, and I found no probable cause. I said, get the child out of jail. That's a tough decision to make. That's not a popular decision, but that was my job. That's what 28 years of criminal experience told me was, okay, state of Texas, I know you got a dead body. I know you have grieving people, but this child, your de minimis showing, is there probable cause for manslaughter? Not there today. There's no rush. We can get this right. We don't have to keep kids in jail while you're developing a case that maybe will develop. That's what I'd be asking these candidates. What do you do? What have you done in the past, which is what this court does? This court doesn't represent Exxon. This court represents Potter County citizens who are getting divorced, who are losing their kids to custody, who they've got a child that may go to prison, or they're a victim of an assault. That's what district courts do. So make sure you ask that question. It's an important decision. It's an important spot. Anyway.
No, thank you, Judge Weaver. We definitely appreciate that suggestion, and that would be included in future question in the future candidate forum, which hopefully will be done in person pretty soon.
Well, yeah, because you get tired of the people planted, they salt the field and someone throws up a softball question to the candidate and clearly they know them. I'm like,
yeah,
that's not what the court does.
Nope.
He's good at it. Whatever that answer was, they're good at it. You got to separate the cons from the crowd.
Yeah, yes, sir.
If it's an educational format. Anyway, I digress. I don't know if the meeting's over or not. I never got to the Sixth Amendment Center. But what the Sixth Amendment Center found was we had an extraordinary amount of people pleading guilty without lawyers. All right. Now, so what? Misdemeanor? Misdemeanor. But we no longer just punish people for what they did. Even people are like, I screwed up. I don't want to fight it. I want to pay my debt to society and I want to move on. But we don't do that anymore. If you have an assault domestic violence and let's say two people were drinking and there's pushing and shoving, there's no broken bones, there's no gunshot. That was domestic violence. Not belittling domestic violence, but that's what it is. Red mark. The second one of those, felony. 2 to 20 years. The first one, The first one, you can't own a gun or an ammo for a while. Ask Mr. Wilson, the board certified family law lawyer. You have a domestic violence conviction or even a resolution. Maybe they'll use that against you in the future. You can't get custody of your kids. So you take young, inexperienced people. Remember, this is a dating relationship. Domestic violence could be between brothers. I mean, the definition is so broad that you get a young person up there who goes, I did it. And they don't want a lawyer. And they're like, I just want time served. I want to get it over with. I was in jail. I bonded out, 6 days in jail, $100 fine. And they think they've forgotten about it. They think they were responsible. 10 years later, they get into a fight. No mark, no broken bones, no bullet holes, 2 to 20 years in prison. Really? I just got that over with. I forgot about that. It's so important to have a lawyer. So knowing that that was a problem, one of the recommendations was get the prosecutors out of the system. When I arraign people now, and Judge Han and I do the same thing, I call them up, I talk to them, we call it, spell check, to make sure the name's spelled right and make sure the charge is accurate. And then I go, you're absolutely entitled to a lawyer at no cost if you qualify. And I don't build a lawyer. If they get probation, I don't build a lawyer. If you're indigent, you qualify for a lawyer, you get a lawyer. And we've taken that number, it was well over less than 50% got a lawyer. And I've got it up to about 90% if they show up. Now, if they're in custody, that's a different story. It was almost 100%. I would be begging 100% not using a lawyer because I get it. They want to be out of jail. So when I got elected, the Democrats had a huge push and they knocked out all the judges, all the old judges in Houston, Dallas, and they're all Democrats. It was a brand new class. I was one of the few Republicans there, and it was uncomfortable. I was down there and they changed because of all the lawsuits on bail bond. You're supposed to set a bond that people can afford to return to trial. That's step one. The steps after that are considering the safety of the community, other issues. But first off, the concept of bonds are promised to return to court. It's not supposed to be punitive. So immediately Houston and Dallas, they started using what's called a PR bond, a promise to return. Well, Austin got mad and changed legislation. You can't have PR bonds. So what I do now, we've also got involved with the magistrate program. Judge Jones, he's a JP here in town. He now magistrates them. And before, he wants to do the right thing, but he's not a lawyer. He's a layman, got decades and decades of experience. We now pay someone to be the lawyer just for the magistrate hearing. So now Judge Jones can make an educated decision about what's a doable bond. If you say a bond's $100 and you don't got 10, it's still impossible, no matter how low it is. I mean, that could be the biggest $10 in your life. You don't got $10, it might as well be $1 million if you don't got it. So now we're getting people out of jail that should be out of jail. We're screening. And now I'm getting better at convincing people who are in jail to get a lawyer. Now, don't just plead it and get it over with. So I would have to say, because of the Sixth Amendment program, just one component of it, I have really worked on it, taken it to heart. Judge Hand and I, we've at least increased by 50%, if not 60%, the amount of people utilizing a lawyer, and we're being very aggressive about monitoring bonds. And if someone's in jail, we're going through the list going, all right, this is a misdemeanor. For give an example, maximum punishment misdemeanor is 1 year in jail, 365. At 3 for 1, your maximum sentence is 120 days. Well, we haven't had jury trials because of COVID. People sitting in jail, if they're saying I'm not guilty and they don't have another felony or some other issue keeping them in jail, I got to get these people out of jail so that they won't plead guilty just to get out of jail. because, I'm an old guy. Computers didn't exist. I'll be the first to tell you, I've been arrested multiple times, multiple states. I've been cuffed and stuffed, sometimes rightfully, sometimes wrongfully. I've had the silent partner smash my face against the grill of the car when he tapped the brake and I wasn't seat belted in. Pow. I mean, and then I've been an ass and I've been drunk and I've been arrested. So I know what it is to sit in jail. It's not something I do lightly. And I'm one of those, a lot of times you get wisdom from a lot of the bad decisions you've made. I got a lot of wisdom. I made a lot of bad decisions. But I also understand there's difference between being rowdy and being criminal. Sometimes you're just young and dumb without any thought of criminality. So I've never lied about it, so I don't have to hide it. It's something I'm proud of. It's just part of who I was in the past. I can't be the FBI, but I could be the president. I have a criminal history. I can't protect the president, but I could become the president. Those are just the rules, and that's the world we live in. So we have embraced getting lawyers to people so that the decisions they make the rest of your life won't haunt them. Because I don't have a criminal history. You dig up Walt Weaver, I got no NCIC. I grew up in a world where I got arrested in rural Oklahoma or rural New Mexico. But the leaders that we have now have created a world where so many things are criminal at such a low threshold that they've created a world where, I don't know what the number is, maybe Jomar knows it. It's like 85% of the male population has had a criminal contact. So we've created a world where exclusivity, if you don't have a right to a lawyer and don't live in the right place, you've built a world where your young men and women are going to have criminal records that'll be used against them the rest of their life. It becomes another tier of oppression. That's why it's so important to have a lawyer. Anyway, I finally said it.
No, that's beautiful and profound information. And we're appreciative of your growth and maturity throughout your lifetime, which is
I started way immature.
Well, and honestly, in all seriousness, when 1 in 3 African-American males find themselves incarcerated, we know we have mass incarceration issues in our country. And regardless of the criminal justice reform that is enacted, if it doesn't seek to address that measure, then we are, in no uncertain terms, screwed. As an educator, I know the data speaks well of the fact that if students are not reading at grade level by the end of 2nd grade going into 3rd, their chances of the school to prison pipeline exponentially increase. And, with the COVID, with some of the deficits experienced because of a lack of access to an education or because of broadband technologically, issues, we have a lot to try to address to ensure that that school to prison pipeline does not increase. And we are seeing progress. We are seeing impetus to drive that change, but it's certainly going to take a collaborative partnership and an understanding from a moral high ground between education community and criminal justice community. This has been a very robust discussion throughout this meeting. We just sitting here brainstorming future town hall forums. I know many of you, especially all members, are aware of the fact that our work has been done virtually almost an entire calendar year. And we have those virtual town halls that are up on our YouTube page, as well as our website and our social media. So I encourage you all to go back and reference those as guides, but it would definitely be a privilege of ours to be able to have a town hall featuring Judge Weaver and anyone else in the legal community to shed some knowledge regarding Sixth Amendment issues and anything else. This seriously has been a great time this afternoon. Thank everyone in attendance and thank those who will watch this recording later. With that, I want to entertain a motion for adjournment from one of our members. Yes, Johnny, I'm sorry.
I just have one statement to make concerning Mr. Jomar Wilson. As you all know, or you figure out, that we are, we went to elementary together, middle school, high school, we played football together, basketball and whatnot. And this is, this is not an endorsement for Mr. Wilson. This is just, my personal opinion of Mr. Wilson. High school kids, that's one thing you have a memory of your school life, of the individuals you came in contact with. Well, me being a ninth grader, sophomore, they could run track or play basketball at a high level there in Del Arte. It's pretty hard. But one thing I can say about Mr. Wilson there, he never did play any of those games. He always treated everybody with respect. And I would just like to take this moment to tell him, 40 years later, thank you. I appreciate that. And I see why you are a criminal lawyer and not a prosecutor, because you're a good person. You was a good person in high school and elementary. And I just wanted to say thank you, because we both know there's some people that I could name that wasn't good. So thank you, Mr. Wilson.
I just want
Thank
to say
you.
I
I
had to pay
appreciate
a
it.
mortgage. Come on.
What's that?
I just want to say I had to pay a mortgage somehow.
Okay.
So, President Miller, I move to adjourn.
I second it.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you all, seriously. God bless and keep you, and we'll see you at our next general membership meeting on December 11th, 2021, if not before then. Look forward to hearing from you all soon. God bless.
Have a good one, folks.
Thank you.